So here's the scoop. Right now, you're holding a device that's way more powerful than the computer that sent humans to the moon. Can you believe that? A gadget that fits right in your pocket but connects you to the whole world. But how did we even get here? From those chunky, brick-sized smartphones that could barely send an email to these sleek, foldable supercomputers that can do just about anything? This is the wild history of the smartphone, a tale packed with genius, rivalry, and some hilariously bad designs along the way. Buckle up, because this journey is wilder than you might think. Chapter 1. The Stone Age of Smartphones. Let's rewind to the start. The year is 1992, and the biggest tech buzz? IBM just dropped something called the Simon Personal Communicator. It was a phone with a touchscreen, a calendar, a notepad, and let's be real, a pretty terrible design. Oh, and it set you back $1,100 and $1,994, which is nearly $2,300 today. Ouch! You might be thinking, wait, smartphones are supposed to be cheap and easy to use, right? How does this giant brick even count? Well, despite its clunky looks, the Simon had some cool features. It combined the functions of a mobile phone and a PDA into one device. Plus, it had a touchscreen, which was super groundbreaking at the time. It even offered email and fax capabilities. It was one of the first devices to popularize the @ symbol and email addresses. Not too shabby for '94, huh? But here's the kicker. It didn't have a keyboard, making it pretty tricky for everyday use. You had to type on that tiny touchscreen. Good luck with that. Overall, the device was bulky, pricey, and limited compared to what we have today. So it's no surprise it didn't take off, but hang tight. Even though the Simon wasn't a commercial hit, it paved the way for future smartphones. It showed that people wanted devices that could do more than just make calls. It also helped make touchscreens a thing. Plus, it gave us this gem, which is kind of priceless. Fast forward to the late 90s and early 2000s, and Nokia and BlackBerry were ruling the roost with devices like the Nokia 9000, Communicator, and the BlackBerry Bold. They were definitely an upgrade from the Simon, but still nowhere near today's smartphones. These gadgets were cool in their own right. The Nokia Communicator was like a Swiss Army knife for the 90s. You could send emails, browse the internet, play games, and even use a mini keyboard. Meanwhile, the BlackBerry was like a VIP pass to the corporate world. If you had one, you were probably a high-powered exec or, Chad Kroger. Still, these devices had their flaws. They weren't very user-friendly, often had complicated interfaces, and were definitely not pocket-sized. We had to lug these things around in briefcases. Seriously? Then everything changed. Chapter 2. The iPhone Revolution. Fast forward to 2007, Steve Jobs steps onto the stage at Macworld to unveil a game-changing device. With his signature flair, he introduces a sleek black rectangle that looks nothing like any phone on the market. The screen is glossy and mesmerizing, and instead of buttons and a physical keyboard, there's just a single home button and a multi-touch display. And that was the first iPhone. We know iPhones today, they're everywhere, but back then, people thought it was nuts. They were used to chunky bricks with tiny screens and basic functions. Then this beauty shows up, looking more like a luxury accessory than a phone. People were blown away. At first, it might not seem like a big deal. It didn't have any mind-blowing specs. No 5G, number 4K cameras, and definitely no AI that could write essays. So, why is it considered revolutionary? Well, it turns out those fancy specs don't mean much without good design and user experience. And that's where the iPhone really shined. It introduced concepts like a full web browser, pinch-to-zoom maps, copy-pasting, the App Store, and even FaceTime. Sure, some of those things aren't unique anymore, but back then, They felt brand new. The original iPhone wasn't perfect, though. It didn't have copy-paste, number 3G, and no app store at launch. But that didn't matter. This was the future. Apple showed the world that phones could be more than just communication devices. They could be portable portals to the internet. And that changed everything. But Jobs and Apple weren't the only ones with a vision. Chapter 3: Android Fights Back. While Apple was busy celebrating, Google was already cooking up a response. They wanted to create a phone that was just as powerful and user-friendly as the iPhone, but with a twist, it would be open source and affordable. And so the Android era began. The first Android phone, the HTC Dream, wasn't exactly a stunner. It was chunky, slow, and had a weird slide-out keyboard. But you know what? The real magic was under the hood. The software was smooth and responsive, built on a platform that allowed for customization and expansion. While the iPhone was like a closed garden, Android was like a wild jungle. Developers could customize Android phones to their heart's content. We're talking custom launchers, widgets, icon packs, and even system mods. It was like Lego for tech nerds. But that's not all. Android phones were also much cheaper than iPhones, making them accessible to everyday folks. Suddenly, everyone could join the smartphone party. Of course, it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. The early Android phones had mediocre cameras, poor performance, and inconsistent software updates. But hey, at least they didn't require a second mortgage. By 2012, the smartphone market was booming. There were tons of manufacturers and hundreds of models to choose from. It was like going from black and white movies to Technicolor. And then bam! Apple dropped the iPhone 5 South with Touch ID, and people went bananas. Oh, and Tim Cook became CEO in 2011 after Jobs resigned due to health issues. He inherited a company on the brink of changing the world. Under Cook's leadership, Apple refined the iPhone, introduced services like iCloud, and pushed boundaries with the Apple Watch and AirPods. Meanwhile, Android kept pushing harder with foldables, wild concepts, and dueling camera specs. Before we knew it, we had phones with dual curved displays, edge-to-edge screens, and notches galore. But amid all the competition, one thing remained constant: the selfie. Remember when selfies were taken with actual film cameras? Yeah, those were dark times. Then came the 2-megapixel front-facing camera, and it just kept getting better. Soon enough, we had night mode, portrait selfies, filters, and today, taking a decent selfie is easier than ever. But let's be real, we're all guilty of it. Chapter 4: The Future, Foldables, and AI. Today, we're living in the golden age of smartphones. The specs are through the roof, the processing power is insane, and the features are straight out of sci-fi movies. I mean, who needs a Tesla when you have autocorrect? Seriously, sometimes it feels like we're living in the future. But where do we go from here? One possible direction is foldables. Samsung has been trying to make foldables a thing forever. Remember the Galaxy Fold from 2019? Yeah, me neither. But hey, they keep trying. Maybe the third time will be the charm with the Galaxy Z Fold 5. Another option is for companies to go all out with bizarre concepts like trifold phones, flip phones that double as watches, and screens that stick to your face. Okay, maybe not that last one. Then there's AI. It's already being used in phones today for things like photo editing and voice transcription. But just imagine what it could do tomorrow. Like AI-powered translations or virtual assistants that actually help you out. Okay, maybe not that last one either. But hey, who knows? Maybe one day we'll have holographic displays, neural interfaces, or even robot overlords. Okay, maybe not that last one either. All jokes aside, the future of smartphones is super exciting. We've come a long way from the IBM Simon, and we're just getting started. so buckle up and enjoy the ride. It's going to be one wild journey. Closing. And there you have it. That's the entire history of the smartphone, from clunky bricks to sleek supercomputers. In just 30 years, we've gone from the IBM Simon, a device that cost over $2,000, to a high-powered foldable phones that can do just about anything. What's next? Who knows? Maybe one day we'll have chips in our brains or robot girlfriends. But until then, we'll just have to settle for 5G and self-destructing messages. Seriously, what was your first smartphone? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button. It helps more people discover the channel. If you want more tech history, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss the next episode. Huge thanks to all my supporters for making this possible. Until next time, stay curious. You know what else is curious? Watching paint dry. It's surprisingly fascinating.